Winter in World War II wasn't just cold, it was lethal. Coal deliveries stopped, electricity failed, forests were stripped bare, cities burned, then froze. Civilians and soldiers didn't survive winter because they were tougher. They survived because they understood heat as a system, not a luxury. They stopped thinking in terms of stoves and started thinking in terms of mass, containment, reflection and time. These weren't inventions. They were adaptations born when fuel was scarce and mistakes killed. What follows are 10 forgotten World War II-era heating systems that kept people alive when central heating was a fantasy and survival depended on doing more with almost nothing. The hobo can heat or turn scrap metal into controlled warmth. Civilians and displaced workers used empty food cans packed with sand or dirt and soaked rags as wicks, fueled by scavenged oil or kerosene. This wasn't a room heater. It was a localized heat source meant to keep hands functional, thaw boots or warm drinks. The sand moderated the flame, preventing flare-ups and extending burn time. Modern use follows the same logic. Small heat beats wasted heat. One controlled flame where you need it matters more than a roaring fire you can't feed. Clay and stone thermal mass stoves outperformed fireplaces on half the fuel. Across Europe, makeshift clay ovens and stone hearths absorbed heat during short burns and released it slowly for hours. The fire burned hot and brief, conserving wood, while the mass did the real work overnight. This principle kept families alive in bombed apartments and rural shelters alike. Anyone today can replicate this by surrounding a fire source with brick, stone, or packed earth. Heat stored is heat saved. The candle and brick heater exploited radiant physics, not fuel volume. When fuel vanished, candles became strategic assets. Civilians stacked bricks around candle clusters and capped them with ceramic or metal to capture and radiate heat. No one pretended it replaced a stove. It prevented frostbite and hypothermia in enclosed rooms. The bricks absorbed heat and released it slowly, extending warmth long after the flame burned down. It worked because it respected physics, not wishful thinking. Bed warmer pans focused heat where the body loses it fastest. Metal pans filled with hot coals were slid under bedding to preheat sleeping areas. This was not comfort, it was survival. Warming the bed reduced calorie loss overnight and prevented illness. WWII civilians reused this centuries-old method because it required no sustained fire. One pan, one transfer, hours of warmth. Modern equivalents using hot stones or sealed water containers follow the same logic. Heat the person, not the air. Water-filled containers, turned boiling into stored warmth. Hot water radiates heat slowly and, safely. Families boiled water during cooking hours and sealed it in bottles, jugs, or metal containers placed near beds or walls. This system doubled as emergency drinking water once cooled. It was efficient, predictable, and fuel-conscious. Even today, this method remains one of the safest indoor heating supplements available when electricity fails. Reflective fire shields reclaimed heat normally lost to walls. Metal sheets, baking trays or salvaged tin were positioned behind fires to reflect heat back into living space. You know, WWII civilians understood that most heat loss wasn't really about combustion failure, but about direction. Reflection, it truly mattered. Even today, modern fireplaces still waste energy if they don't have proper reflectors. Just one metal panel, believe it or not, can dramatically change how heat is distributed in a confined space. Improvised ventilation chimneys, well, they actually prevented warmth from turning into something deadly. Indoor fires killed as many folks as the cold did, especially when smoke had nowhere to go. Civilians, they built crude chimneys out of whatever they had. Clay pipes, bits of stovepipe, or even packed earth flues. These systems weren't elegant, but they created draft and prevented carbon monoxide build-up. Safe heat always mattered more than strong heat. Any modern improvised heating must respect this lesson first. Earth-bermed shelters used the ground as insulation. People dug into hillsides or packed earth against walls to trap warmth. Soil temperature remains stable year-round, and, you know, WWII shelters exploited this brutally effective fact. Earth berming reduced wind exposure and stabilized interior temperature without burning a single log. This method still outperforms most modern tents in cold environments. Wood-burning can stoves extracted maximum heat from minimal fuel. Large cans, punched with air holes, became compact stoves capable of burning twigs, scraps and debris efficiently. You see, these stoves were quite ingenious. They focused combustion, which really helped in reducing waste. Both soldiers and civilians found them incredibly useful. They could be used indoors, of course, with proper ventilation, or outdoors as handy cooking and warming stations. Now, modern rocket stoves, they follow the same principles but with better materials. Yet the core idea, well, it really hasn't changed much at all. Passive solar heating worked even during wartime blackouts. South-facing windows, dark interior surfaces and heavy curtains allowed civilians to capture the low winter sun and retain it. During the day, stone, brick and metal absorbed sunlight. At night, insulated coverings trapped it inside. This method required no fuel at all, just a bit of planning. It remains one of the most overlooked heating systems in modern survival discussions. They survived winter by thinking like engineers, not consumers. These heating systems didn't rely on abundance. They relied on understanding. WWII survivors didn't ask how to get more fuel. They asked how to waste less heat. That mindset is what kept them alive. If this knowledge matters to you, subscribe to the Wartime Frontlines, share this with someone who respects real survival history, and help preserve the lessons written in cold and fire.